Could you come over just to be with? Could you come over?
When we were young, everything went our way. But we grow old and something slips away. A different story told from day to day. I can read what you're telling me. It's so clear to see. Well, it's so easy. Look at you and I just know. But it's not easy to stand beside and let you know. It's never easy to say a thing that might be a whole different story. Whole different story now. It's a whole different story now. It's a whole different story now. Time always catches up on those who run. But we have time to change what we've begun. A story once told cannot be undone. And I can read what you're telling me. It's so clear to see. Well, it's so easy. Look at you and I just know. But it's not easy to stand beside and let you know. It's never easy to say a thing that might be a whole different story. Whole different story now. It's a whole different story now. It's a whole different story now. Find out. We've got so much that we can work out. There's still so much that we can find out. We've got so much that we can work out. There's still so much that we can find out. It's a whole different story now. It's a whole different story now.
Could you come over just to be with you? It's all I want to. All I want to. Wanna be close and be in the moment. I'm hoping that you can love like I do. I don't wanna be your part. I'll never forget all the things we done. Things we done. And how could I go without us? When you are the world I am dreaming of. I know I can be wrong, but never about us. Every time that emotions. How could we let us go? The distant hurting. I'm tired of it. Leaving the old I want us to feel again. I'll do whatever to love you better. I don't wanna be your part. I'll never forget all the things we done. Things we done. And how could I go without us? When you are the world I am dreaming of. I know I can be wrong, but never about us. I know I can be wrong, but never about us. I know I can be wrong, but never about us. And how could I go without when you are the world I am dreaming of? I know I can be wrong, but never about us. Every time they play a song on the radio, I wanna find a way to play you in stereo. Every song is about us two, and I can't let go. And I can't let go. Every time they play a song on the radio, I wanna find a way to play you in stereo. Every song is about us two, and I can't let go.
I still remember how it used to be. Holding hands, running wild and free. Crossed our hearts, said we'd never let go. I still think about our younger days, how we dreamed about a better life. Holding you so close to me, in the backseat of your ride. We fell apart, thought we lost everything, just lost in our memory. And I sure hope you do remember me like I remember you. Like I remember you. Like I remember you. We drew our names in the pavement, thinking about how we never changed. I still remember how it used to be. I still think about our younger days, how we dreamed about a better life. Holding you so close to me, in the backseat of your ride. We fell apart, thought we lost everything, just lost in our memory. And I sure hope you do remember me like I remember you. Like I remember you. Thought we lost everything, just lost in our memory. And I sure hope you do remember me like I remember you.
A real clockwork soldier.
Hello. Ooh, that was a little bit loud. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Generation Orange. My name is Edson Ochoa, and I'm accompanied by my co-host Sean Ringrose.
What's up,
Sean,
y'all?
what's up? What's up, Sean?
Is that your indication that I can start running with things now? Is that what that's supposed to be?
Well, just yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's been a crazy last 3 weeks between me having responses, you having vacations, and getting sick, and Dynamo activities, and everything and anything in between. It's been a crazy, hectic, chaotic 3 weeks, but I am absolutely ecstatic to be back on. I have missed it. I have missed all of you lovely people who hang out and chat with us and talk with us. I missed you guys who call in. It's really not the same week over week without you guys. So thank you for joining us, those that are with us right now. If you do us a favor, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this video and this channel so that we could try to build this following up a little bit more. The more following we get, the more that we can continue to increase some of the cool stuff we get to do. Like tonight, we will be giving away 4 tickets to Houston Dynamo versus SKC on Saturday. In order to get these tickets tonight or have a chance to win these tickets, you have to be active tonight. You don't get to sit back and watch tonight. If you want tickets, you have to call in and share your thoughts on whatever you want to talk about related to Dynamo soccer, Dash soccer. I'll even take Dash soccer, RGV Toros as well. Any of those 3, or I'll even take U.S. Women's National Team, U.S. Men's National Team. I'll take Gold Cup, Honduras, El Salvador. No Mexico National Team though. I'm not going to allow that. No El.
But I will.
You might allow it, but that doesn't mean we're going to talk it.
Who has the controls here? Da, 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 da.
I mean, you seem to think that I couldn't end this right now.
Bye. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, whoa.
So I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody that's in the chat so far. Jacob, welcome to the show once again, man. Who's out there in the chat? Guys, tonight he's going to be live for Orange and Black Soccercast, which is a podcast that covers Orange County SC, which is RGVFC's next opponent this week. So he'll be talking about Toros and so be sure to, and they are live on YouTube as well. So be sure to check out his participation as a guest star in their episode tonight. Also, I want to say hi to Amy Hawk. Please tell me I said this right. If not, please correct me. Amy Hawken, who says hi. Hi, Amy, and welcome to Generation Orange. And of course, our good friend Darby Lockridge. Welcome to the show. Be sure to check out her articles in MLS Female. They're really, really good articles covering the Houston Dynamos. So be sure to check those out. And that's it for me.
Oh, you're done? Okay, cool.
Yes, I'm
Sorry, Andres went and posted a Twitter thread on Discord, and that's going to distract me. I have a feeling for a while. We may not talk about tonight. We may wait that till next show to talk about that, but that's definitely some interesting stuff worth reading. So a couple of weeks ago, guys, we made our last show. We made the call out for people to get more involved in off times when the Dynamo aren't playing a match day to day. I'm curious how many of you have taken up trying to make sure you find at least one Dynamo Dash Houston soccer article or RGV Toros soccer article each day to read online and share, because I've done as best I can to keep the read list going. And we are using hashtag read list as a way to share those those out on Twitter specifically to try to get more eyeballs. Really interestingly enough, as a result of, not as a direct result of, but there was an article that came out in the Chronicle this week, or was that it was last week.
Last week.
At the tail end of last week, about Mauro Manotas and how he's kind of the superstar of the Dynamo now. And here we are, 3 weeks removed from, or 2.5 weeks removed from when we made that call out, and we're already seeing, and again, not a direct correlation necessarily, but we had, we made the call, and within a couple of days or a few days that, oh, Cisco, get over yourself. Know that, we saw the impact that it can have. And so keep it up, just know that, again, like Ben said just a few weeks ago, it doesn't take, 50,000 or even 5,000. It only has to, you only really need 50, sometimes even less than that to really push for more coverage and change. And you don't even have to be vocal. That's the thing I think that people don't really necessarily grasp right away, is you don't have to be vocal about it. You can just simply, like we did with the read list tweet hashtag on Twitter. You can join in, add, if you got an article that you want people to read, that's a Houston soccer article, then toss it up on hashtag read list, and we'll retweet it, and we'll retweet it with a comment so that we get our thoughts in on the article as well. And I can tell you, we're clicking through too. Jacob, the answer to that question is whenever you want to call in, friend. We are totally phone lines open tonight. I'm sure he knows the phone number, so I don't know if you need to repeat it yet, but we'll even save the phone line just for you right now, Jacob. It's all yours tonight for the first however long you want to talk.
If you'd like to call us, be sure to call us at 956-622-5977.
But if you call in before Jacob calls in, I'm hanging up on you, or having Edson hang up on you, because we're doing Jacob first. I just declared that. I just made that statement.
So there's one quick thing that I want to say about read lists, and I think we're kind of taking, the way I see it, we're kind of taking away some credit of ourselves, because I have a feeling this is a direct correlation from not necessarily like Gen Orange, but of Dynamo Twitter, calling out the Houston Chronicle for, number one, just putting up a picture on the printed version of it and having the name of Kiki Struna wrong. I believe that's what it was. That was started the whole thing. Read list, I think, has, like you said, has had some part of it, but I think the big thing is that Dynamo Twitter became vocal, like we've been kind of mentioning on the show many times, and that's what got the Houston Chron to kind of react up on that. Not only did it have an effect on the Houston Chronicle, but we did mention as well last week, on Twitter, RGV now has a local broadcast in Spanish, but a local broadcast nonetheless, because they have seen that there is a potential for the Spanish market at RGV to watch those games and get some sort of coverage. So it's baby steps, but it works. This has to be an indication to everybody who has participated in hashtag read list, or who are still kind of reluctant to participate in hashtag read list, that this works, that this works. And if we continue to do it, it can only have bigger consequences and bigger effects the more we do it.
Absolutely. And, while we're proud to see what has taken place, we're not content to stop there. And while we hope we can be a spark for this, we also don't want to pin it on ourselves as, oh, we're the reason this is changing, or
Correct.
Oh, we're the reason this is all happening. We just want to be part of it. We don't want to be, look, it's not about us being, the center of this or the focus of this. This is about the Dynamo Dash, RGV, Toros, Brazos Valley Cavalry, if you want to add them in there. It's about growing coverage here locally, not just in Houston, but in Texas across the board. And so this as much as a shout out to Harry for the hard work that he does to get coverage out there for San Antonio. And we have Jacob calling in, I'm pretty sure.
Welcome to Generation Orange. Who are we speaking with?
Speaking to the one and only Jacob Young.
Jacob! How's it going, man?
It's going good. A long time no talk for sure. But yeah, I mean, you were mentioning about RGV in that market with the television station in Spanish. 5.2 is what I believe on antenna.
Correct.
And yeah, it's cool for sure. But I can tell you one thing. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to last a long time, but the front office and everyone like that is really reluctant about it. And that includes, of course, Rene Borrego. I know that we kind of mentioned that, I think, like 3 weeks ago, too. That's always a problem when the front office is kind of reluctant about that as well. And, of course, who got to kind of take over that host position for that channel was none other than, well, I don't necessarily know her name, but she worked for like Univision and then now worked for the Toros and then of course now works for that. So yeah, it's really interesting on that. It's cool. It's good for RTV to have more media like that, but it's not necessarily, I mean, I guess it's a good step in the right direction, but we'll see how long it can last. And we'll see if it actually ends up getting views too, because a lot of times they're showing those games for home matches. And of course, the one goal that we want to show those people even off the, on TV is that we can sell out a place, but we can't do that if half the people are going to end up watching at home. And then it goes back to also, well, that's a problem just in U.S. sports in general too.
So you brought this up, and I really wanted to talk about it on tomorrow's show, but now that you brought it up and we have Sean here as well, you know, I want you to talk a little bit more. I know right off the bat, you were one of the first naysayers about this partnership between the Toros and Channel 5.2, so Somos el Valle. And you mentioned, one of the things you mentioned was attendance. Why do you think this is something that'll hurt rather than help attendance?
Well, because you get to sit in your house, not have to pay even a cent to get into a game. You won't have to pay for beer or anything like that because you'll most likely have that at home. And so that's a big thing right there. We've seen it on just nationally televised games in general, and I'm talking more, of course, along the lines of college. But we've seen that drop off when your team is not only necessarily bad, but then, of course, even if they're good, sometimes they'll be shown nationally and you get that national attention. Then, of course, you'll see attendance not necessarily grow. And so it would hurt them. And that's mainly why, because you're out in the luxury of your own home. You don't have to pay anything. But if you were to go to the stadium, you will pay for multiple things: tickets, popcorn, food, and of course drinks. So that's really one thing that I'd see for the negative part about that, just because you're able to watch it at home.
Yeah, but let me put it to you this way, Jacob. You have to admit that the Rio Grande Valley as a region is really wide, from Roma, Texas, all the way to South Padre, the Brownsville area. Now, for a lot of these people, especially at these ends, these extreme ends, it might be a little bit too far away from, number one, the reach of marketing from the Toros. Number two, the driving distance to HEB Park. Now, I'm pretty sure because of this, they have no idea about the existence of the team. Now, don't you think it would be a plus that one day they're surfing through the channels and they find the game and now they know about RGVFC?
Yeah, of course, that is always a plus, but then now it gives them more of a reason not to necessarily go to a game, even if they enjoy that team. So that's always difficult, but I do see where you're coming from, as in you're just able to, well, now you get more of a fan base. They know about the team. You might see a lot more Toro shirts. So that's a good thing. I haven't necessarily watched the broadcast or have known necessarily how the games look on TV. I know it's probably not necessarily HD, which is all fine, especially given, like you said, the audience that we'll probably end up getting. But of course, I don't know how those post-game press conferences or anything like that are necessarily going to be done with that channel. But yeah, like you said, I do see that positive where you can gain more of a fan base. The only problem is, like I said, you want to see those people that learn about it go to a game and get into the stands. And so, yes, that's one way to get fans into the stadium. But at the same time, I don't necessarily see them ever going just because they can see it on TV and say, okay, that's really, really cool. But now, of course, I can stay in the luxury of my own home to watch it.
I know you have something to add to this, Sean.
I'm just enjoying RGV Express starting off the show. It's fantastic. No, so you mentioned, Jacob, that you have concerns, and I think the front office probably has some concerns about that side of things. With, how do we supplant or supplement the potential lost revenue from lack of attendance as a result of, hey, the games are on TV. I don't have to make the effort to get out to a match. Instead, I can just watch it on TV. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to counter that, but I'm going to actually turn that into a positive. And you're going, how are you going to do that? And I'm going to do that by telling you this. That means it is on the front office to create a game day atmosphere that is can't miss. Whether it's from the team, from the players, from the game day staff, from the game day experience, from concessions to promotions to, whatever, that falls on the front office to deal with. And at the end of the day, they're going to have to step up at some point. If RGV wants to be a team that lasts and stays around, and this goes to the front office, to the fan base, to the ownership, if they want to be a team that stays around in USL Championship and maybe 30 years down the road possibly has some random chance at MLS opportunity, then they're going to have to put their big boy pants on and figure out how to market the team in that market in RGV in such a way that people, not only do they want to watch it on TV when they have the opportunity, but they want to go out to the match. And if they can't create that environment, they shouldn't be in USL Championship. And honestly, they should be down in USL League One. Yeah. And I think they can. I believe in the RGV front office. I believe they have the talent to do it. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be overnight. Perfect example is the Dynamo. But now that they have this coverage, and I want to add one other thing. I suspect the front office is not so much concerned about the lost revenue from attendance. I think they understand that in order to grow the fan base, you have to have coverage of the team locally. Otherwise, like Edson said, you just lose out on that awareness of the team across the city and across the region. So I think probably where their real apprehension comes from is the fact that the deal wasn't exactly what they honestly wanted when it came to a broadcast partner. It was good enough. It was enough to get them the coverage they wanted, but not enough in terms of the various agreements that were in place and those sorts of things. And again, it's important to remember you have to start somewhere when it comes to something like this. And while ESPN Plus is a fantastic platform and amazing, the fact that RGV citizens and RGV individuals that live in the area can now watch matches on the TV, at least a bulk of the matches on TV, for free. That's not ultimately lost revenue. That's additional opportunity.
And in their language.
And in their language. And not only that, you now have the opportunity for the matches to be on in the local sports bars and local places where people are going to congregate and eat and socialize and that sort of thing. That is what will create oh, cool, I just happen to be out here doing this, but hey, look at that. There's a team in RGV. I didn't even know that. It creates opportunities to spread the word and market the team without them having to necessarily be the ones to do it. They're offering the opportunity to market to the broadcast partner. But again, I think they have apprehensions just about the broadcast partner themselves. And, but again, you got to start somewhere. And, it gives them an opportunity to begin building some stuff around that, to begin building marketing material around that. and that sort of thing. And it's only, look, it can be a negative. Again, if the franchise, if the individuals involved in the franchise aren't able to take that step in the, in the next or in the right direction to create that atmosphere and environment during game days to get people to come out, even though the games are on TV, then it's not going to matter that they have a broadcast partner or not, because at the end of the day, people aren't going to continue to go out and watch the team if the environment or the atmosphere is not good enough. Go ahead, Edson.
So just real quick, so Kenneth Kapner says, plus in terms of revenue, you get your corporate partners and sponsors more airtime with commercials and in-game elements in the broadcast. And another thing that you did mention, Sean, and that has to deal with getting people, hyped up, the game atmosphere. It all falls on their social media. And I feel that RGVFC's Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, they're still lacking in overall interactivity with the fans. I feel they post too few things, very far apart from each other, and it's just a simple regular post, no interactivity. I'm not saying they should copy it word like exactly, but I feel like League One team Forward Madison has pretty much nailed it when it comes to social media. They have fans not only from Madison, Wisconsin, but all around the U.S. Why? Because their social media is on point. And I feel that RGVFC needs to take a look at how they handle their social media. Yes, it's good that they're doing it in English and in Spanish, but there's still a couple of, grammatical errors, spelling mistakes in both languages, which is more surprising. And that tends to, in my opinion, put more people off than actually bringing in more people. You got to be a lot more interactive. You had a whole week of South Texas Derby to be interactive, not only with fans, but against SAFC fans or SAFC's actual official Twitter account, and they didn't do it. And it's up to the team to build up this atmosphere of rivalry. And honestly, neither team's social media account did much to help promote the South Texas Derby as an actual rivalry from players, from fans, which, as we saw on the pitch, players did excellent. The fans on Twitter did their part, but the actual team accounts, they lacked. And that's one of my biggest gripes so far. Now, I appreciate that the work that they put in, to posting stuff out. But it's one of those things where I have to say it because I really want this to be better. There's still room for improvement, and if nobody says it, then they won't realize it.
Yep, I 100% agree on that, Edson, because we've seen, you and I have both seen, who has necessarily this year ran the social media, and it just seems like, they are lacking a lot in that. And of course, that doesn't necessarily help with what the club is actually trying to push as well. What, of course, Rene Borrego is trying to push as well, because the atmosphere at the park when you get there is fantastic. If it's shot right and the camera angles and all of that, you can really get the feel that it's an interactive place to play. It's not just, or to be at, it's not just, about the game of soccer. It's also about, there's a kid place that they could be at during the game and things like that. And of course you can stand at the local bar that they have right there and sit and listen to the Stampede for a while, make up some funny chants versus a South Texas team or something like that. So of course, there's opportunities that are being missed right now, and it can be fixed. So there's, of course, good that can come from all this. It's like you said, it's got to be marketed right, and right now it's just a bit too quiet on the social media page for things to really spark up anything and for us to get fans, or even, fans watching a game. They just really have to say at least once a week that, look, we are on, like, game day, we're also on TV on Somos.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like the social media accounts, they're very reluctant to kind of come out of their shell. And I understand that the league has some sort of guidelines or rules more than anything on what they can tweet, yada yada yada. But they've got to be willing to test the rules to kind of get to their limit, because I think that's how you're gonna get a lot of fans when you're more interactive, more daring. Like I said, guys, look at Forward Madison's Twitter account. Like, they've embraced their eccentricity with the flamingos, with their gifts, with everything, flamingo related. Even I've interacted with them, with their flamingos. When I was on vacation, there was an aviary and they had some flamingos, and I go up there, take record a video. And I'm like, all right, so give us some thoughts on Forward Madison's start of the USL League One season. And that's the kind of thing, the kind of interaction you want from, maybe they're not necessarily fans of your team, but at least it kind of helps bring attention to your team, not only where you're from, but also around the league. And Blues fan says, tweet game is not on point. Don't know what they are watching, but they are so behind the stream when they are live casting on Twitter. I agree. Most of the times I end up publishing stuff on Twitter way before they even do it when I broadcast it. So it's one of the things that they can work on. Eric Romero says, we're going to make it, knock on wood. We're going to make it, knock on wood. And then my dad says, okay, that's it's occasion related. Is that the best part of it? But I think it was more to the question you asked him.
I asked. You're good. You're good. Continue on.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about in regards to RGVFC social media.
Yeah, and one more thing on the social media. Of course, you were gone for 2 weeks from the RGV with your family on the vacation, and so of course I was, covering the games for you as best as I could until, of course, the LA Galaxy game got very nerve-wracking, and of course, that the final score ended up being the final score that it was. But the main thing is, I don't believe that they had a social media consultant there at the game, as in, of course, we've met both of them. I don't think they were even there at the game. They weren't at least there in the post-game conference, so that was not a good thing to really say about our social media team at all. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the week after, there was one there just for the coach press conference after the game. I don't know what they did before the game, or, of course, not really reading their Twitter. They did repost a lot of things that other people, including myself, did post out there too. So it's a lot of, they're reposting a couple of things and not necessarily making an effort to just share their own, not only thoughts, but just in USL regulation rules or in RGV rules or whatever. But they're just not necessarily doing the best of jobs that they could be doing for this social media game that we're talking about. And I mean, that's what this is now. We've known it for however long that's the new game. You have to be on social media. If you're not, then where can people find you? How will they know about this club? How will they know about stuff like that? And of course, if you don't have it, which we don't have it at the moment, then it's going to be a problem.
Exactly. Sean?
I don't have anything else to add. You guys are I added what I had to add already, so you're good.
Yeah. So Jacob, kind of switching topics, right now, what are your thoughts on this week's Dynamo match against the Loons?
The Loons, we already played them. Try again. Or are you talking about
last week? I said last week.
Against our real rivals, if I think that's what you're talking about, Sporting Kansas City.
See, I think you worded that wrong, Edson. Yeah, no. So he was asking your thoughts about the Minnesota United match.
Oh, okay. Well, thoughts about the Minnesota United match. I got to catch a bit of it. Didn't get to catch it as much as I would have liked because of the fact that I was watching the San Antonio or the South Texas, derby really closely. But from what I could tell, it was just Houston Dynamo. They had their opportunities a couple of times. They seemed like they had the pace, but when it came down to it, just Minnesota United, when we kind of knew it coming in, was going to be this better team, and one lapse was going to just, break Houston Dynamo. And sure enough, that one lapse in the 20th minute around there happened. And, of course, that 1-0 lead. And, of course, I wouldn't say of course, but they weren't able to recover from that as much as they would have liked to. There were chances, of course, but they did not necessarily have the opportunities. And so, of course, now it's coming back home, and they definitely need 3 points. I mean, they've fallen in the power rankings, which now this actually means something, these MLS power rankings. They've fallen to 9th place, or I believe, 9th place, if not 8th, which they were in 4th place about 2 weeks ago. So there is problem, and they need a high before they go on a break, which is they just basically need to win out before they go on that Gold Cup break.
I got a difficult question for you, Jacob.
All right.
Should the Houston Dynamo offer Michael Salazar an MLS contract? That goes for you too, Sean.
He's played in an MLS contract before. He knows the style of the game. I think they offer him a contract for sure, an MLS contract, but they waited out just a bit. They put him on the bench, let him still play down here for a bit longer, and so that he can, of course, still get up to speed, because I think he's just almost there. He is almost there to really be back to full potential, where he could actually make a huge impact for either the Dynamo or whoever. It is important that he gets back on his feet in the MLS, because he deserves to play there. He got his brace versus San Antonio FC, and of course San Antonio FC, this is a totally different team, which rumor has it probably we might not see that same coach from San Antonio FC the next time that we play them. So that's going to be interesting to see. That's just been a different San Antonio FC team. We deserved that win 3-1 for sure. But it's just going to be interesting to say the least. I say you give him a contract and you just leave him here for a couple more matches. And if the summer transfer window happens like everyone says it happens, even though I really truly believe that Albert Ellis is going nowhere. But if any of that happens, offer Michael Salazar a contract, leave him there for a couple of weeks, and then send him off to Houston for full time and make him a super sub or something like that.
Sean?
Yeah, I think you definitely sign him to an MLS contract. I think right now, if there's any hesitation to sign him to an MLS contract, it's due to roster slot availability. And so they may be hesitant as a result of that. Also, if they have a desire to sign someone, which they do, in the summer transfer window, which opens July 10th, then they may be waiting for that instead. And also, if they're going to have players that are going to potentially be transferred out in the summer transfer window, then they may be waiting for that to open up the additional roster slots as well. So there's a lot at play beyond just, do we sign this guy? Do we not sign this guy? It's, do we have the roster space for him? It's not about the money at this point. They've got the money. That's not an issue. Mm-hmm. But do we have the roster space? I think at the end of the day, if they could sign him right now, they probably would. I'm sure that they've, at least approached him about it as a possibility. But there's a lot of things that are going to have to be discussed. And also, with the announcement of Beasley retiring, that's going to open up eventually another roster slot as well. So there's all of these moving parts. And, thankfully we have a general manager in the Dynamo in Houston that is very good at managing the moving parts and capitalizing and making the most out of every moving part. So, I would for sure like to see them sign Michael Salazar, though. I think he came in and proved very early on that he's a capable player and deserves a shot at more than just USL. But at the same time, he's still got to earn it a little more too. We don't want the Dynamo to just sign a guy when he's in form. We want to see how a guy responds when he's not in form. Good example of that is Aldo Quintanilla.
Mm-hmm.
To start the season last year, we were all high on him, and now, he's sunk down that depth chart quite a bit.
Well, he's recovering from a surgery. So.
Well, no, but even then, before he was injured, he was beginning to slowly decline as it was. He wasn't going out and just lighting it up. Another player who has come back around but had a slump to start the season, Carlos Small, another example of a player that could have been called up early on in the season or even in preseason to an MLS contract. But then, again, it's better for him to get the play time down at RGV on an MLS contract. That means he's going to be traveling back and forth between RGV and Dynamo. We've seen how they handle it. And really until the Dynamo kind of figure out that travel aspect and make it less strenuous on players, I would prefer to see, until they're truly ready to call a player up to the MLS squad, at least, to sit on the bench, I would prefer they stay in RGV. And, my thoughts, Edson, if I'm saying that, then, then I've definitely changed my tune on it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Or at least, like Eric Romero says, test Salazar with the Dynamo during Open Cup.
And sure, and that may be what they're waiting on as well. It is Open Cup to come around, which will be here soon enough. And again, they could sign him to a temporary contract. They were able to do that with USL players last year. Let them have a match, in Open Cup competition, and rest some of their veteran players. I suspect that's very likely to be how they handle some of that as well. To give some of the guys an opportunity at MLS, at against tougher competition than just the USL level.
Yep.
I do want to say one thing to Jacob's note about one lapse led to the goal, and I disagree with that completely. That was a deflection. It wasn't a lapse at all. It was a fluke goal. I think if anything, when we say lapse, that falls more on the lack of scoring. When you had multiple opportunities at goal, a couple even in front of goal, and you either skied it or it went wide, we've got to nail those chances home. We can't leave those chances wanting, because when you leave chances, on the pitch and you miss goal opportunities like that, 9 times out of 10, it bites you in the ass. And it did on Saturday. And I thought the team played decent. I don't think the team played that bad. I do think you could definitely tell the difference in not having Elise out there. You could definitely tell the difference when Kyoto left the match. We lost a significant amount of our pace. We tried to control the ball more in more of a possession style, but without that pace up top, we just didn't have much going for us at goal. We had opportunities, but part of that was because Minnesota United was sitting back because they had the lead. But we also saw in the match, there were various times that Darwin Quintanero definitely showed how good of a player he is. I'm not upset at a 1-0 scoreline on the road in Minnesota. When we had chances, I'm disappointed, but I'm not upset about it, because I can't fault the defense for giving up that goal. In reality, it was a fluke goal. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. There's nothing that Joe could have done. The only thing Boney could have done different was not try to deflect it, not try to get in the way of the ball, of the cross. But if he doesn't get in the way of the cross, I don't know if, I'm pretty sure the center backs have it covered, but I can't say that for sure. And so, and I can't fault Joe, because his positioning was where he should have been for the header, which would have been the second part of that, play, if Boney doesn't deflect it. It was just a series of very unfortunate things that happened all right at the same time that yielded that particular goal. But on the flip side, we only yielded the one goal. Again, it was a fluke goal. So defensively, on the road, that's a pretty solid result. We just need the offense to figure it out. And, I think there's more reliance upon Memo with Elise out especially now with Kyoto getting ready to head off to Gold Cup as well. There's going to be a lot more reliance on Memo to be the guy to create opportunities, than there was before. And I think, I'm high on Memo as a potential long-term starter. I think I'm going to struggle more though with Memo as a starter when the opposite wing from him is not a guy that's going to pull defenses away from him.
Correct.
And create opportunities for him to run in behind and get, notch those little tap-ins and things like that. That's just not – Marlon Hairston may be able to help him with that, but Tommy Mack is definitely not going to be that guy. That's just not what he does. And Tomas Martinez is going to feed him when he can, but, that's not an easy thing to necessarily do. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a little bit of a rough go of it. Thankfully we get the 2 weeks off for Gold Cup, which comes up very, very soon. So that's going to be good. But then immediately following Gold Cup, we have like 5 matches in 2 weeks. It is a grueling end to June, with a lot of midweek matches back to back to back. In fact, I think we actually end up with like 6 matches in 3 weeks, with literally no rest in between. So it'll be interesting, to say the least, to see how things go from here. Jacob, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, not really. I mean, just on your fact, what I kind of meant as well is just because of course, we had that fluke goal in Minnesota, which is fine, considering that, of course, it was a fluke goal, but what led it to being a fluke goal? And what I mean by that is, of course, why were they pressing us inside our own half to basically get, of course, across a corner off and, of course, scoring on that goal? So, when I said middle lasses basically kind of meant like that, well, you're deciding not to necessarily press and you're going to back up into your own end, which will almost always bring you problems. We've seen it. I know Edson and I have seen it time and time again live in RGV, and he's probably seen it time and time again in Houston as well, where, of course, if you're pressed back to your own side, then yes, the defense can only do so much, the goalie can only do so much. Then, of course, that's probably going to end up becoming a goal either way. So, it's just things like that, of course, Houston, yes, they did a great job on defense, but, of course, just thinking about that could have ended up being a different type of kind of scoreline.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree, especially with a team that has Darwin Quintero, who we've seen what he can do with Club America. It's kind of a problem when you're inviting them over to attack you, whether it's by design or how you fail with your tactics to counteract the pressure that your opponent is putting on you. And we saw that, with RGV against San Antonio. San Antonio, they were being jostled out of the ball too easily in their own half, and the Toros, with their speed, were able to take advantage of that. And the same thing with this match against Minnesota United. You can't. I think, yes, it was only 1-0, but it's these little details that you're going to have to figure out when you're on the road. Especially now that we're coming in, like Sean says, we're coming into Gold Cup, where we're going to be outside of those 2 bye weeks. We're going to be without our main players. So, but
so that. Go ahead, Jacob.
Oh yeah, and I was just gonna also mention as well, which made me laugh as well once I heard, because I was watching the highlights once again of the San Antonio match, because I mean it's glorious when you beat your rivals by a good score line, which would be 3-1, and you could just tell who was announcing from where. So I believe San Antonio FC has somewhat of a deal with Fox Sports Southwest or whatever, and they have like their own announcers that announce the games sometimes. So of course, because I've seen it sometimes where it says San Antonio FC versus whoever on like Fox Sports, which is pretty cool for them on that Southwest page. But why I said that was because the announcers, when RGV ended up scoring a goal, they were, well, I mean, they acted very biased. They were just down on energy when the ball went into the back of the net for RGVFC, which was just, I mean, to me, it's funny, but of course, in certain exceptions, when San Antonio scored that goal, of course, they got excited as well. So it's just like, which one is it going to be? Are you going to be excited for all goals, or are you just going to be that way, or something like that? So it made me laugh because it just reminds me of how biased people can be, and especially given the fact that that was on ESPN Plus, and we didn't decide to not let them come down for that match and just make it an ESPN Plus match instead. So that was kind of weird as well. But other than that, yeah, that's basically all that I got.
All right, Jacob. Well, thanks a lot for calling in the show, man. We truly, really appreciate it. And good luck tonight at Orange and Black Soccer Cast. We'll be tweeting out the link once they post it on their social media, so that way people can listen to you talk about RGV with them.
All right, sounds
for
good.
Sure. Thanks, Jacob. We appreciate you coming on.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me as well.
No problem, man.
Yeah, later.
Have a good night.
You too.
So I mentioned in the chat, I actually pulled it up because I was curious to see. The Dynamo have at the end of June, starting June 22nd, they have 5 matches in 2 weeks. Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. And it is the first match is against on the 22nd is an away match at Portland. The 26th is away at San Jose. The 29th is away at New England. The July 3rd is here against New York Red Bulls. That's a Wednesday night match at 8. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff. At least it won't be 100 and something degrees. And then Saturday, July 6th is an away match at FC Cincy at 6:30. So that's a lot of away matches. That's 4 away matches in those 2 weeks and 1 home match in those 2 weeks. And it's pinging around because we start West Coast for the first 2. That Wednesday at San Jose followed by Saturday at New England. That is a tough road slate right there because that's fully across the country. That's West Coast to East Coast. No time for your body to adapt. No time to rest whatsoever in there. No time for recovery. I mean, that's just rough. And then coming back the following Wednesday against New York Red Bulls here. I mean, it's too much travel in too short a period of time when we've had all these other clubs that have been playing their double game weeks before now. And unless the Dynamo had some say in it to say, yeah, we're okay with that. If I'm the Dynamo, I have to hate that part of the schedule and think to myself, I would have rather had some of those matches earlier, knowing full well that it's likely I'm going to be without my best players through Gold Cup and potentially some, a little bit after Gold Cup. You can't throw Elise and Kyoto and
Boney, I believe.
And no, Boney's not the other. Figueroa. You can't throw those 3 players back into full game action, the Saturday following Gold Cup, and then expect them to play in all 5 of those matches within 2 weeks.
No.
I mean, it's just, that's an absurd bit of scheduling by MLS that absolutely harms the Dynamo. And I guarantee you that there are fewer teams that'll be playing double game weeks in those weeks. I bet we're probably one of the few teams that's playing 5 matches in 2 weeks in that particular span immediately following Gold Cup. And again, it's just, Santos says it perfectly. MLS really did us dirty with the road travel. And look, we've benefited from it to start the season, but because there was no balance to the schedule, we have this run of 5 matches that very well could take us from second or third place, possibly fourth place in the West, all the way to sixth or seventh or possibly lower as a result of that 5-match stretch. And it's, of course, it's all the way matches with the exception of one match. So it's even, I mean, it's even worse.
My question to you is, do we have the roster depth to help with that? I say no.
We would if it wasn't for Gold Cup, because without Gold Cup, you can rest Elise and Kyoto and Figueroa, you know, for a match every couple of matches and not have it be a big deal. But again, with those guys coming back from Honduran national team duty and Gold Cup, you have players that are legitimately not able to play more additional matches like that in a short period of time. You're only going to get Elise and Kyoto for probably 3 of those matches. And even then, probably for 60 to 70 minutes. That's not just unfair. That's outright wrong by MLS to schedule it that way. Now, MLS will say, well, we really don't control it. We schedule based on availability of teams and times and stadiums and things like that. Okay, cool. But you can't tell me that the only time that San Jose Zavia Stadium was available on Wednesday, June 26th. You know, you can't tell me the only time that that our stadium was available was Wednesday, July 3rd for New York Red Bulls. You know, I mean, there's just no balance to the schedule. And, you know, we're not the only team that suffers from this. It's definitely an MLS issue, but it's an MLS issue that at this point in their longevity, at this point in their tenure, they should have figured out by now, because it's detrimental to the quality of play in the league. It's detrimental to the league. It's detrimental to teams, and it's absolutely unsafe for players because you do have coaches, you do have clubs, you do have team trainers and physicians that will put players out there that are coming off minimal recovery time, minimal rest time, and that leads to player injuries. It is a known scientific quantity. It has been proven through scientific study that the lack of recovery time leads to additional injuries and more injuries.
That's correct.
And so it puts the players and the clubs at a disadvantage. Now, on the flip side, this has not become an unusual thing for MLS. MLS will say, well, we had to do it because we shrunk the length of the season by a few weeks so that we could fit it in and try to end, you know, early November. And okay, I call bullshit on that. I absolutely call bullshit on that. Give us one of those just one of those double game weeks, either one of them. You know, the Wednesday, July 3rd home match. You know what? Make it a 4-match away series. Okay, whatever. But that Wednesday, July 3rd match that's here at home, why not make that a double game week for us instead, previous in the season? When, you know, I don't know, we didn't have another match, you know, for 2 weeks. We had 2 buys in the early part of the season. That's dumb to then turn around and have, you know, 5 matches in a row when you had 2 buys not even 2 months ago.
Now, don't you think, Casisco says it, he says, I think they were trying to help us out early with the CCL.
No, that had absolutely nothing to do with it, because they didn't do that for any of the other clubs. They didn't do it for Sporting KC. They didn't do it for LAFC. They didn't do it for New York Red Bulls. You know, no, they didn't. They just doesn't play into their scheduling because they don't know how far teams are going to go, and they didn't reschedule any of our matches. So to try to say, oh, well, they helped us by giving us the availability, I'm calling BS on it. Because we still could have had the double game weeks, and then you reschedule the match if you can't play it because of CCL. I'd much rather them do that, because at least that way, then if we don't make it deep into CCL, we're not hindering the end of our season or the middle of our season by having this run of matches. It's just absurd. So Kenny says we always seem to play a game on or right around July 4th, so that one at least might be on the Dynamo. I think that's plausible, but again, at the same time, if you're going to do that one, then don't do the Saturday, June 29th at New England or the Saturday, July 6th at FC Cincy. Give us a bye week for one of those 2 Saturday matches to get the rest in there. It's just the scheduling right there is just unfortunate, but it's going to happen at some point in every season. It's almost a guarantee because MLS do it that way. Eric says traveling sounds fun. Just kidding. Alex in Houston says should just switch to the European schedule. No, I will never condone that for MLS. And there are plenty of reasons not to do that. Kenny also says, do you think things like this are going to help the players be more successful collectively bargaining now for more charter flights? I do think that actually is going to be a big part of this upcoming collective bargaining agreement between the players union and our players association and the league, in that it's been a big talking point by the players from the players association. And usually if the players are talking about it, it's something that they're giving a heads up to the league that we want this included. We want this taken care of in this next CBA. So I do think it's going to be, and they have, don't get me wrong, Cisco, SKC has, but, and they've played less, but not as few as we have. So how does SKC get 2 extra matches on us? Actually, I take that back. I think SKC actually has the same number of matches as we do. I'm looking. Yeah, they have 12. So they're at the same number of matches as we are. Portland has 12, and they weren't in CCL, were they? They might have been, but they bowed out immediately.
No, because the other one was Atlanta United.
Yeah. Seattle, let's see, who else? Minnesota and Real Salt Lake and San Jose all have 13 matches. Colorado has 13 matches played. I mean, you can say that it's, it's due to CCL, but I think that's just an excuse that gets thrown out because it's an easy excuse. But talking about SKC and their schedule so far, let's talk about SKC a little bit and preview what we have coming up on Saturday against SKC. I've seen people talking about how good SKC is right now, that they're on this upswing. They're playing a lot better, etc. Sure, they're playing a lot better because they've played most of their matches at home. Sound familiar? Except the only difference is we've won a match on the road. Guess what they have yet to do this season? Win a match on the road. Through their 12 matches currently that they've played, of which, let's see, that was a road match, 1 road match, 2 road matches. So they played FC Cincy to open the season, 1-1 draw. They played San Jose on April 20th, which was like the 4th week of the season. And that was a 4-1 loss to San Jose, which, by the way, San Jose is not that great this year. They played DC United in DC on May 12th, and they lost 1-0 to DC. And that's their only other away matches. So they've played 3 away matches and have yet to win 1, and have drew 1 but lost the other 2.
Let's also take into consideration that Sporting Kansas City right now is kind of low on players.
Yeah.
Due to injuries. They're playing tomorrow against LA Galaxy, and then they have to travel here to Houston.
So that's another thing too, right? Why don't you just give us a double game week this week as well? Instead of stacking them up immediately following Gold Cup, why don't you give us one preceding Gold Cup so at least our players that aren't going to Gold Cup can have a rest? Sorry, I just wanted to tag that in there because it's a good point.
No, it is a good point because, like you said, like when you cramming in that many games without any rest, if they were all home or 3 home, 2 away, I think it'd be better. But you're putting them to do a lot of traveling. You're making them jump 4 time zones between that match against San Jose and then New England Revolution.
Yep.
Jumping 1 time zone is tiring enough for somebody.
Yep.
Imagine 4. How tiring it's going to be. How messed up their body clock will be as well.
Let me tag on to that because the one slight thing is that technically both of those matches are played at 7:30 Central Time. No, I take that back. No, they're not. So they're played at 9:30 Central Time in San Jose and then 6:30 Central Time in New England. So
because they're all technically going to start at 7:30 local time.
7:30 local time. So it's like you said, it's a 4-hour difference, but then it's a 4-hour difference with, in a what essentially is a 3-day span. It's a 4-hour difference. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just that's absurd enough. And then again, to turn around and then come home for a win, for a midweek match against New York Red Bulls, only to turn around and go play another away match against FC Cincy. I mean, look, I get why it has to be done to some extent, but I just think the way that they've lined up this schedule is just brutal. And to be fair, how often have we seen teams that have made CCL, and are playing in CCL one season, have absolutely struggle during the season, that same season that they're playing in CCL? And it's because of things like this where, we're trying to make amends a little bit, or not amends, but we're trying to make room for CCL play for those extra matches early. But we're stacking up the schedule later, and in places where players are being called up for international duty or what have you. I mean, it's just that they've got to do better. They've got to figure it out. They've got to do better. And it just feels like, to me, the league is just kind of ignoring it. And, it's just a hazard of playing the way we play, and, and doing things the way we do it. And that's just not good enough for me. It's just not. Cisco says, I thought having an even number of teams per conference was going to fix the scheduling issues. Even and the worst part about that, Cisco, is that's one of the reasons they told us they wanted to go even. But then to add to it, that it didn't fix it when they did it. Not only did it not fix it when they did it, but they've shortened the season and it's gotten worse. Mm-hmm. And then Cisco says, I was tired going from Houston to Minnesota, and it's in the same time zone. And that's true. I mean, we're talking time zone travel, but let's not forget that's also thousands of miles of travel. That's 2,700 miles worth of travel. That might be even more than that. From San Jose to New England. And I would hope that the team is using one of their charter flights for that flight, because if those players are sitting in the airport for, even if it's just a layover for 4 hours or a layover for 2 to 3 hours, that's grueling on the body, especially immediately following a match away. Mm-hmm. And that match is late Central Time Zone, so their bodies are going to be like, oh God, it's so late anyways. And then to throw in any kind of travel after that, I mean, like I said, it's absurd, but it's to the point of obnoxious for players. It's just unfair. It's unsafe. And until they, fix it. And I think honestly, the best way to fix it is reduce the number of matches in the season. Yeah, it's going to reduce your overall quote unquote revenue. But at the end of the day, look at the NFL. They play 17 matches a year, excluding preseason and playoffs. 17 matches, and they're making more money hand over fist than MLS teams are.
Why not make it similar to Liga MX? Actually, more along the lines of the Spanish league, not necessarily at the time of the calendar, but more along the lines of you'll play against every opponent of your. Let's give priority to Western Conference. And then for the first half of the season, and then you'll switch it around. So, like, let's say in the first half you played at home against so and so, in the second half of the season you'll play again. You'll play away against that team in the second half of the season, and just focus on Western Conference. Not have like these games like against the Western Conference 2 or 3 times, and then also add in against the Eastern Conference in a game that really has no validity when it comes to, which is pretty much extra, in my opinion. I think that MLS needs to focus. If you're in the Western Conference, you're only going to play against the Western Conference, and it just overcomplicates things that you put us in this predicament of trying to sketch players. I think, and it'll be a lot better to schedule, and it won't be as, as packed.
Well, see, the problem there is if you're going to have a supporter shield, you have to have some parity in scheduling. You have to have teams playing teams the same number of times. And if you only have teams playing West Coast teams or Western Conference teams, so Western Conference plays Western Conference, what you end up with is a schedule or a situation in standings where the standings outside of the conference mean absolutely nothing. You would no longer be able to have a supporter shield winner.
That doesn't really make any.
Well, because
why not do away with the supporter shield? It's pointless. I think supporter shield is pointless.
It is.
Why even have it? Just get rid of it.
It's a holdover from the European competitions. It's MLS trying to be too much of everything to everyone. They're trying to adopt every culture, every league, every style around the world instead of developing their own identity.
You know what's funny about that? Because all the MLS fans, they're like, "Whoa, we had our own identity, blah 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 blah." But yet you're trying to have your own identity, but at the same time you're copying the European, you're copying everything. Like, just do what needs to be done. Get rid of supporter shields. Just go up against Western Conference. You're overcomplicating things way too much, and that's why people that are not MLS fans, they call us a farmers league. Just keep it simple, keep it short, sweet, and to the point, and I think it'll simplify everything a lot better, and it'll make games better, because you don't have to deal with cramming 5 games in 2 weeks. That's ridiculous.
Well, so we remove supporter shield. So let's think about it from MLS's viewpoint. We remove supporter shield. That means those matches at the end of the season, the only matches that matter are where you place in terms of who makes playoffs and who doesn't.
Okay.
So
isn't that how it is in other leagues that they want
absolutely
to emulate?
not. Oh no, absolutely not. Because you
like Liga MX, like it.
Stop. Look at the Premier League just a couple of weeks ago.
But do they? But yeah,
most exciting end to a Premier League season in quite a while came down to a single match on the last day of the season.
But do they have playoffs? They don't have playoffs.
No, but they have UEFA Champions League. They
no.
have
Don't bring in UEFA Champions League.
They have Europa League.
No. Don't bring in the international competitions.
They have FA Cup.
We have Open Cup. Cup. Why do
Because again, we're trying to be European and American at the same time.
Where does in Europe, where does the supporter shield come from, or what is it about?
It's about the best team in the table at the end of the season. It's whoever has the best record.
That's the championship. Okay, that's the championship. Then they don't have a separate playoffs. The only one that does it is the championship, and that's only to see who is going to be promoted. There's no need for support if your actual champion is not going to be established by how many points are they make at the end of the regular season. Then there's no point to having a supporter shield. You already have the MLS. If you're going to base your champion on the playoff, then just have MLS Cup. You already have MLS Cup. If you want a domestic cup, you have the Open Cup. International, you have CONCACAF Champions League. Why do you need more? Why do you need the supporter shield? Why do you need to have Western Conference teams going up against Eastern Conference teams? That's one of the things where they're trying to emulate baseball or football. I don't see a point in that. If you have a Western Conference, you go up against Western Conference teams, that's it. That's all you need to care about.
Okay, I want you to go read that article or link that Kenny posted. You need to go read that and take a deep breath. It's about the history of the supporter shield, where it comes from, why it means something to people, and why it's important. I agree with Alex. I mean, at the end of the day, look, it should continue to exist. I think it really should continue to exist. I think getting rid of it downplays the importance of it and where it comes from and what it means. And honestly, it creates additional atmosphere at the end of the season that is really enjoyable. It's enjoyable to see 2-3 teams vying for supporter shield towards the end of the season, to see who gets that top spot and who is the supporter shield winner. And I think the difference is you are coming at it from the aspect of, well, European leagues and other leagues aren't doing it, when it comes to playoffs. But here's the thing. There was an article that came out about 3 months ago from the whatever they call them there, the CEO of one of the European leagues. And I want to say it was either Bundesliga or Premier League or Liga One, talking about them just beginning to have discussions about adding playoffs to their schedule, because the playoffs are such a ticket draw, a money draw, and a big opportunity to add excitement at the end of their seasons. Because when you have teams that don't, when you don't have promotion relegation, which European leagues do for the most part, but when you don't have that, your teams that are anywhere from 5th to 12th place in most tables, they don't care about the end of the season. They have no reason to care about the end of the season. So those matches are meaningless. But with something like with playoffs, those matches now take on relevance and importance because, hey, if I'm a team in 6th place, yeah, maybe I am out of the running for, the Supporters Shield or, the championship directly. But, hey, I can make playoffs. I still have a shot at something. The drawback is you have to schedule for those extra matches. You have to find time for those extra matches. And again, I think they can pare down the scheduling a little bit. I would still like to see them. I would just like to see them adopt a 2-match series against every team in the league. And I would like to see them do it in such a way that you play home and away, like really close together, over like a 3 to 4 week span. And the reason I say that is because then you could have your West Coast trips where you do 2 away matches on the West Coast and then come home for 2 matches and that sort of thing. And it would make scheduling, I think, easier. I think right now it's just so convoluted and complicated, partially because not every team owns their stadium. So they don't have the right to, say when and, when they can host matches like NYCFC, perfect example. Portland having construction at the beginning of the season with their stadium, that changes how many games they can play and when and where. Things like that, and other teams that are building stadiums, same type of thing. It's just, I think you have to have a balanced schedule. And right now, this whole, the way they currently have it is just weird. It just needs to be a balanced schedule across the board. And maybe they need to go to a similar type of thing to the NFL, and I'd be okay with it, where they play all of their conference opponents twice, and then they only play Eastern Conference teams once, and vice versa for Eastern Conference playing Western Conference. I'd be okay with that because then at least everybody's playing everybody. I think the one thing I don't want to see is a situation where teams don't play other teams because they're not geographically close, or they're not in their time zone, or, they're not in their conference, whatever it is, because that just creates an artificial barrier, between the 2 conferences that doesn't need to be there. And I mean, look, soccer is never going to be basketball. It's never going to be hockey. It's never going to be football, or baseball. Baseball and hockey in particular, and basketball. I mean, look at how many games they play a season. You can't do that in soccer. It's impossible because of the 90-minute, 45-minute straight. You just can't do it. The body can't do that. And so they can't go to that kind of scheduling. And then the flip of it is the only thing that's worked here in the U.S. has been at the NFL. And then no, teams don't play every team. You have teams that play their division twice, and then they play another division from their league once, and then another division from another league, or their conference once, and then another division from another conference once, and that's it. So they end up with 17 games a season, 17 weeks in a season. And to me, that would be the way to do it if we didn't have so many freaking teams. You could still do it with the number of teams we have. And I really wish they kind of would go to that scheduling. I know I said I don't want to see them go to that because I want to see every team face every team. But if they went to that, where it would reduce the total number of matches down to a reasonable number, it would put emphasis on every match. Right now, there are matches that you look at the schedule and you're like, I don't even care about this match. Perfect example. I don't care about Saturday, June 29th at New England. I don't, because it's at New England. Who the frick cares about New England? I don't. But if we only played 20-something matches in a season and we only played matches on Saturdays, now you're talking. Now I care about that match because every match holds more value. Mm-hmm. They've literally undersold the value of matches by having so many matches in a season, because matches take on less importance when you can afford to lose a match here and there because you can make up the points later in the season, or you can start off really good and have a few matches in the middle of the season that you lose, and it's not a big deal because you've got enough of a point buffer. Yeah, I corrected myself, Cisco. All right. Yes, NFL has more teams. We can afford to have more teams. My point is, if they're going to continue this way, they need to split into the divisions. That's what I wanted to say. You can't do it by conference only. You have to split into divisions when you start to have this many teams.
I don't know. I don't see any reason to have a supporter shield. Kenny said it best. Supporter shield isn't that big of a deal. Supporter shield winner will never be considered MLS champion by the league. Only the cup winner. And who remembers? Who remembers supporter shields? What everybody cares about? Who gets the recognition at the end of the season? The MLS Cup winner.
I mean, you say who remembers supporter shield? Well, FC Frisco fans do because it's all they've ever won.
Yeah, but it's Frisco.
I know it was tongue in cheek. I mean, you're not wrong when you say it, but I think on the flip side is there is some validity to the supporter shield. However, I think there's other ways to do the same type of impact. I think we are getting to a point though with the number of teams that supporter shield is becoming less and less valued. It's already pretty minimally valued just in general, but it's really taking on less value because teams, honestly, they'd rather win playoffs because it's more intense. That's, again, like I said, you have other leagues internationally in Europe that are looking at playoffs as a viable option because it's working in MLS, and it shows how entertaining, how intense those matches become. It's like MLS has found a way to create Champions League, UEFA Champions League at the end of their season with only their league playing each other. It's that level of intensity, and the viewership numbers definitely point to that. And I could see that becoming something that more leagues across the world adopt. But I think we also see there will be a diminishing of value as they do of their own end of season table winning championship. And I think you also, we don't have a lot of European league, fans that chime in on here, specifically talking about they're not big MLS fans. They only care about Europe leagues. But I think some of them would beg to differ the value of having okay, well, if the Dynamo were to win MLS Cup, when Dynamo won their 2 MLS Cups, who did they face? They didn't face the, necessarily the best teams in the league. They didn't face the supporter shield winners. In playoffs, you don't have to face the best teams in the league. Sometimes you just have to get lucky. And I think that's a valid point to some regard, but I also think the fact that you see the entertainment value behind it and the intensity behind it, look, teams take it more seriously than they take regular season matches. And I'm not talking all regular season matches because there are some like rivalry matches and things like that take on added meaning. But Cisco says if supporter shield mattered, then Dynamo would have 0 championships. Eric says Champions League final this weekend, y'all. Come on, you Spurs. I'm watching it. I'm still trying to figure out where the hell I'm going to watch it at. I'm probably going to watch it here at the house, but there's a match later on that I have to go to, so we'll see how that works out. Cisco says he broke MLS into divisions in 2012. I do remember that, Cisco. I remember us talking about that, and I remember completely agreeing with you that we should do that, that the league should consider doing it and should do it. Kenny says less matches means there's more openness to CCL and new Superliga and Open Cup. I think it opens up the opportunity for more in-depth and more valuable, or adding more value to, or more quality to these secondary tournaments. These, you have this tournament that's Champions League final is at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Sorry, I was looking for something.
How you doing, Jake?
The openness, talking about the openness.
Yeah.
It creates the opportunity to add value to Open Cup, to add value to CCL, and add quality to CCL play, to add quality to this new international tournament that they're between Liga MX and MLS, which I think is absolutely stupid. And I kind of hate already, but whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, you're adding more matches to the teams that do well the previous season, because the way that seeding is going to, or the way that this is going to work, is teams who place in at the end of the season, who place in certain spots in the standings, are going to be the teams that make this new competition. And my problem there is some of those teams are already making CCL. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have CCL like we did this year, CCL, Open Cup, this new international tournament. We had preseason play. I mean, if we make the playoffs, that's playoff play. our players are already probably going to end up playing 10 to 15 extra matches, if not more.
And it doesn't help that you have like the way MLS is set up. Like you can't have as big or as a good of a roster as these Liga MX teams, especially their top ones. They have pretty much 2 starting 11s.
Yeah. Cisco says, would be cool if USOC only took place in June. We talked about that, Cisco and I. We actually talked about that on one episode, I think, of Gen Orange last year, that I'd like to see just an entire month or at least maybe a 3 to 4 week period set aside specifically for Open Cup. I'd be okay if they did it in the month of June when Gold Cup happens, because at that point, you know, not having your best players around, you know, when our Hondurans go off to play Gold Cup, it's Open Cup. It's the, you know, okay, whatever. It's the early games in Open Cup. It doesn't have any effect on MLS play if you do it that way. I think it makes the most sense, and I wish they would do that too. Cisco says we might break 50 matches for a season finally. That doesn't include Charities Cup. I don't know what's happened with Charities Cup. With this other, I mean, you've got the Charities Cup, you've got CCL play, you've got the Open Cup play,
Superliga.
Well, that's the other competition I was talking about.
Yeah.
The Superliga. I mean, you've got 4 to 5 additional competitions, and then if you add in playoffs, I mean, that's another competition essentially. It's another tournament you're adding in. Yeah. And you know, what if we had won CCL? Then we'd be playing in Club World Cup too. To top it all off, let's throw another competition in there. I mean, it just doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense how MLS is trying to build up their schedule because it's so packed right now. The other thing is there's a waning interest by diehard fans in going to every match because it's exhausting going to every match. I know Cisco will speak to this, that being out there for every match is exhausting. God, I don't even know how he did away matches. Forget that. But just every home match. I mean, that's only 17 home matches in a season, but that's 17 if you exclude every other competition. We had 2 additional home matches for CCL play. We'll have 1, 2, possibly 3 for US Open Cup. We're going to go play in that other competition. Playoffs, you know, are a very good possibility at this point. That could be 2, 3, 4 matches as well. I mean, it gets absurd at some point. I mean, that's 30 something matches or, you know, at least 25 matches by the end of it. I mean, it's a lot of freaking competitions in a season to deal with. Mm-hmm. Cisco says he's completely exhausted. And yeah, and we're only 3 months in. I mean, we're not even to the halfway point of the season yet. We're close, but not quite.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm feeling it, and I'm not even in, you know, La Banda. Los de siempre. Thank you. Los de siempre. Siempre. I was close. Trying to remember it. Just for you, Cisco.
I'm just afraid that in there, I don't know if you want to call it greediness by MLS to keep on adding teams to the league, to add games, you know, because for financial reasons, whatever, that this is going to become in its own way like MLB, where they have so many games in a season that people like average attendance just go down, because how are you going to have money to go to so many home games in one season? It's just, at least with other leagues, unless, for example, Liga MX, you only have 17 games in 6 months around there, or maybe 5 months. So it's pretty well spread out. It's just like you go to your stadium like once every 2 weeks, whereas in MLS, like, you find yourself like, oh, you have CONCACAF Champions League, you have the Cup, and you end up having like a spell of like 3 games at home in a row, sometimes even during the week. And, you know, it's tiring on the wallet. It's tiring physically and mentally. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that that it's not worth going to the stadium, or that I don't like or that I'm just making excuses to not go to a Dynamo match. but it's gonna come to a point where you're just going to be straining your fans for money, and it's just not going to be fun anymore. That's what I'm getting. It's gonna get to a breaking point where going to games, because it's so often, it's not gonna be fun anymore. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, so Cisco, says who has the time to be a season ticket holder in baseball and attend all 81 games. I mean, I know people that are season ticket holders and they'd attend maybe less than half of those games. I mean, it's just having that many games, and it's the same thing with hockey and basketball. Having that many games, it's impossible to attend every game unless you don't have a job or you own your own business where you can afford to take off and do it that way. And you look at MLB, they may play midday games like during the business days. That's just absurd to me. How much are MLB season ticket memberships? I've seen some for as low as like $1,600, but that wasn't that long ago for the Astros. You can get them fairly cheap, but that's because they have seats that, you essentially get a discount for the extra games. You're paying for more like half the season instead of the whole season. And you definitely don't pay face value for all your tickets. Yeah, Jake says, just imagine if the women's leagues had CWCL or CONCACAF Women's Champions League and CONCACAF World
CONCACAF
Women's Gold Cup. Thank you. Yeah, I had to think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Like you said, we'd have nonstop football action for the
Don't
entire
get me
year.
wrong. I would love to have a women's CONCACAF Champions League. I'd love to see Tigres Femenil against North Carolina Courage, against the Dash, Rayadas as well. Just to see like where each league is at when it comes to their own, or not necessarily like a CONCACAF Champions League per se, but maybe just do the Superliga with them. Liga MX Femenil versus NWSL. Once that's settled down, then you can start thinking about adding other women's leagues from other countries in CONCACAF, which, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think there's anyone else.
Yeah, there's not. So I don't want to beleaguer the point any longer. We've beat it into the ground at this point. But I want to. Something just came across my Twitter timeline, and I want to talk about this.
Oh,
it is 8:30, but we're gonna talk about that here in a second. Before we talk about that, it's time to give away tickets. I've only seen one person say they want tickets. If I miss somebody else besides Eric, I need you to in the YouTube chat just say you want the tickets, and you'll get the second pair. But right now, Eric is the only one that said he wanted the pair of Dynamo tickets for Saturday. So as of right now, Eric, you are the proud owner of two tickets. You're the proud owner of 2 tickets. And again, anybody else in YouTube chat or anybody else even on Twitter, if you're watching and not in chat, Darby, you can always tweet us and say you want a pair of tickets. And the first one to either hit us up on social media or YouTube chat saying they want the tickets, they're yours. The expectation is, if you're going to do that, if you're going to take the tickets, you have to either use them or they have to go to somebody who's going to be in their seats. That's my only thing. And so, Eric, I'll get your contact information. Hit me up on Twitter or Dynamo Discord, either or email. If you need my email, just say so in chat, and I'll get it to you some way, somehow. We'll definitely get you those tickets for sure before Saturday's or on Saturday's match. But now that we've done that, now for the bit of news that broke on Twitter just literally 4 hours ago. So I'm apparently late to the party. Ben Crook, longtime Dynamo social media manager. He did a lot of media and comm stuff for the Dynamo as well, but his primary role was over digital media, articles, things like that. He's been absolutely one of the best in the business, an amazing manager. He's done a fantastic job, and he's done it for more than 6 years. He's done it for quite a while, and helping manage that. He's really brought Edgar into the fold in terms of the Dash, and really kind of built up Edgar to kind of take it over. But Ben announced he is stepping down from his from the job to pursue another opportunity that's popped up. He's leaving in the next month, which I'm sad to hear that because I'm really a big fan of Ben's. He's a fantastic person on and off the pitch. He's done a fantastic job with everything that he's done. And he does say that he's excited to get an opportunity to enjoy matches as just a fan, quote unquote, just a fan now, which is pretty cool. But, personal note, Ben is, like I said, he's just an incredible person. And I wish him all the best going forward with everything that he's got, that is coming up on the horizon for him. But I'm definitely sad to see him leave. But on another note, we retweeted out that he has posted the link to the job opening. It is open. They don't have somebody currently who's ready to step in and fill that. And they're taking applications now. So if you are interested in that job, someone who with experience, somebody with experience,
I'm calling you out, Andres.
Or if you have a degree that fits that, there is a link in Ben's tweets to go to for that particular job. I don't know who we're going to get to fill that role, but leadership has definitely been fantastic so far. And I expect that that's not going to change with him leaving. I think that honestly, with the contacts that John Walker and Deanna Witter have, I suspect that that is going to become a position that gets filled by somebody who honestly has a lot of opportunity and experience in maybe not even in soccer, but potentially NBA or other areas. But I suspect we'll see social media probably pump up even more once Ben is fully gone, just because. And that's to be fair, the social media, Dynamo Twitter social media account and Dash social media accounts are fully active, pretty much nonstop throughout the day. Cisco made the comment that he constantly messages the Dynamo account. They're always posting stuff, and I hope that definitely continues. I believe it will. I don't have any reason not to. But again, personal note, sad to see Ben go, but certainly understand it. It's definitely not going to be the final destination for anybody who really takes that job. But good luck to Ben and everything he has coming up in the future. It's okay, Edson. You don't need to cry.
All right. Having said that, all right. Moving on.
Yep. I don't know what we're moving on to. We're waiting for phone calls. I agree with Kenny. Let's get the guy that did the quiet. It'll be over soon. Actually, I think it was just a shh, and then the gun pointing at the cow, which is the Mavericks mascot. I think it was followed by "It'll be over soon." I don't think it was done in poor taste. That was 2-3 years ago at this point. But the guy was social media. He knew what he was doing, and I would not be opposed to seeing him jump onto the Dynamo bandwagon for sure.
So why was the Rockets Twitter banned or suspended this just recently?
The Rockets what? Oh,
The Rockets Twitter account.
Cisco mentioned it earlier. They got suspended for violating terms of service or something like that. He probably has way more info than I do on it.
So, right.
Santos says, someone hand Edson an Oscar on his performance here. Yeah, Edson's a good actor, that's for sure.
Seems legit.
I mean, he's probably watched enough soap operas to...
Gaviota! All right.
Oh, Jesus, sorry.
No. We don't want a tragedy happening live.
I'm good. I'm good. The chair didn't break. That was the...
That would have boosted our ratings, though.
I don't know about that. People would have stopped tuning in. Cisco said they got banned for copyright infringement for music that they had. He said they had to delete a bunch of highlight videos. Oh, that makes total sense. I'm not surprised by that.
I see what you mean. That's why you get Monster Cat.
Fuck Twitter. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Twitter's one of those necessary evils. I love Twitter just because I love that immediate back-to-back conversation. But I also hate Twitter because of what it's become. I'm constantly on it because of what it's become, but I'm also constantly on it because it's Twitter. Travis, oh man, they must have pissed off Travis Scott then, because he didn't care before that. But I guess it could be his label. His label could be the one that
yeah, more oftentimes than not, it's the
copyright.
labels that put in the claims, not necessarily the artist. It's the same in YouTube as well.
Yep.
And it kind of depends how bad of a copyright infringement it was. Sometimes they'll just have it unavailable in some countries. Or like you'll be able to have the video on, but it'll just show an ad. But there are some cases, some record labels that are very extreme, and they'll literally just make it unavailable anywhere, and they'll order you to take it down, or they will actually put a strike against you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's not usually actually the label per se. It's usually a firm that the label has hired to scour the internet for copyright infringements, and usually that firm uses a piece of software that does it for them, and then they have zero indication or knowledge into what the actual violation is or how stringent they need to be about it. So they just take a whitewash approach to it, and if it's a violation, it needs to be taken down. It sucks for the Rockets Twitter account, but at the end of the day, it's on the Rockets, social media team to, like you said, Edson, to find a way to not be in violation of copyright. I mean, you can't use somebody's music without their permission. And if they're signed to a label, you can't use their music even if they give you permission without the label giving you permission. It definitely sucks.
And it goes the same way with sports highlights. Like if you use highlights or parts of a game without permission from, let's say, USL Championship or MLS, then they pretty much have the analytics to go to identify that you used their stuff, and they'll put a claim. I know UEFA Champions League is so big on that, where right away they'll identify that you've used something of theirs, and they'll block your video from even being available to be reproduced.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember one time and this is funny. There's two instances. One time in my old YouTube channel, I used parts of the UEFA Champions League, the intro, for one of my FIFA videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to take it down. Like right as soon as I uploaded it and finished upload, your video cannot be reproduced. Blah blah blah. So I had to take it down. And then a second instance was when FIFA 9. I don't remember. I think it was FIFA 18 when they first started doing the complete Premier League intros and stuff like that in FIFA. I think it was in 18. I remember the first couple of weeks when it was launched, the filters, YouTube's filters for the Premier League would mistakenly strike FIFA videos because they thought they were actual Premier League matches that were being displayed, because that's how good the UI was for the Premier League. But it's one of those things, like I said, like if you don't have permission, might as well not use it. That's why I've kind of strayed away from like putting on like clips of specific matches either on Down in the Valley or on Generation Orange, because the last thing we need is to have these leagues get on our case and have to either take it down, or we run into a situation where our account gets pretty much taken down. So it's too big of a risk that we shouldn't be willing to take.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know sometimes there's some users that what they'll do, they'll post this whole paragraph that's saying that they're not using it for monetary purposes or things like that. I think they cite the Fair Use Act of the Copyright Law or something like that.
Yep.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But it's like I said, it's too big. It's too big of a deal, to try to circumvent that. That at the end of the day, it's 9 out of 10 it's not worth it.
Yep. It's interesting because it's one of those things, not to get into too much of a discussion about copyright laws and things like that, but it's one of those things that sports in particular is affected by more heavily than other entities, because you're not going to have an entity like a company that's going to retweet out or tweet out a video from that's been recorded from the local news talking about XYZ about the company. They're not going to share it. They don't care. But whereas a sports league, if they're getting coverage in the news, they may be tweeting it out. They may somebody may snap a picture of it or a video of it, whatever. There's definitely, I think copyright laws need to be addressed in terms of social media, because unfortunately it's had a negative impact on social media in terms of, that's one of the most fun things to do is to have highlight videos that people are posting, even if it's a short clip, and to be able to share those, because it gets coverage for the teams, but at the same time, on the flip side, it's the broadcasters, the broadcast groups and the music labels that are the ones that are trying to get enforcement of the copyright laws when it comes to those things. And it's just kind of a catch-22. And at the end of the day, the reason Twitter bans the accounts is because if they don't, they're liable for the damages, quote unquote, if they get sued by the entity that has lawyers that they're paying good money to craft the letters, essentially cease and desist letters.
Yeah. Well, and so I think we should just kind of leave that behind and move on to the next topic. I do want you to talk about a little bit about Champions League final since your Spurs are on it. But I do want to kind of mention a little bit of Dash news. So a couple of things. I believe that Kaya Simon is coming back to Houston due to an injury.
Yeah, I know, but she'll get better. It's okay. She'll recover.
And number 2, the Houston Dash, excuse me. Sorry, Jake. The Houston Dash have just signed or announced the signing today of Ariana Calderón as a national team replacement forward.
Yep. Basically, it's a supplemental player until the national team player returns from national team duty.
Yeah.
And I think she's one of those players that, she'll get an opportunity to play at some point in this stretch. And if she plays well, she'll get an opportunity to potentially sign a contract with the Dash.
So Calderón is coming from Þorke, which is in Iceland. She made 33 appearances with them. With the Mexican national team, she's played since 2014, scoring 2 goals in 13 appearances. And she came from Long Island University. She made the NSCAA first team all region squad. I'll just put in a link to that information from the Houston Dynamo website, because it's just interesting, her background on it. I haven't seen any highlight videos of her, so I don't really have an opinion about Ariana Calderón as a player. All I can hope for right now is that she brings in something different, or at least something positive, to the Houston Dash without Rachel Daly and company.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough loss to lose Rachel Daly, to lose our Canadian national team players, Sophia Schmidt, Alyssa Chapman. I'm blanking on the other 2. Not Kaya Simon.
Lindsay Agnew and
thank you.
And
yes.
Michelle.
Yep. Nichelle Prince and Lindsay Agnew. Thank you. I totally forgot. It hurts to lose them because they're so good, but I think a lot of people need to remember, and I say the same thing about the Dynamo when Gold Cup comes around. Other teams have to deal with the same thing. The Dash have the advantage of their national team players aren't U.S. women's national team players.
Mm-hmm.
They're Canadian national team players, and then a couple of non-Canadian national team players, like they're one Jamaican, not Jamaican. They're Jamaican.
Mm-hmm.
And then and I don't think they made the Women's World Cup. They have one other one. Kaya Simon would have been another one. Isn't Polkinghorn also?
Claire Polkinghorn?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe she
Okay.
won.
Yeah. So we've got quite a few national team players, just not U.S.
Kayla
national
McCoy.
team players. Yeah. And then Rachel Daly, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts, but other teams deal with it too, so it's not as bad.
No, Eric. We will not ban the Spanish music. That's the only time I actually enjoy the music being played.
It's interesting, right? Because they did it real heavily before the Tigres match. And Cisco and I were actually talked about that. Like why they're doing it or why they did it. I talked about it with Jeff and Sergio too. Speaking of Jeff and Sergio, where are those guys? Kind of surprised they're not in here tonight. But there's reason for them to play that, and part of it is it's part of the culture and part of the base that they want to build. It's easy for us to say we want them to do things a certain way, but at the end of the day, there's reasons why they do things the way they do them, and sometimes it's hard for us to pull out of the view of well, I'm the fan, I'm the one they should be catering to, when in reality they got a lot of fans to cater to, and a lot of them are very diverse and very different. You're not going to do, you're going to go approach things differently when you're marketing to a Honduran than you would to an American, than you would to a Mexican, than you would to, a Costa Rican.
Yeah.
Not that we have a whole lot of those, but same thing applies. It's just, they have to market differently to different cultures, different people, and different demographics. And if there's one thing that was brought up on the call by John Walker, which was last week, that was really good. He was talking about, we have to market, to these different, these different groups. And, he talked about a lot of things, but one of the things that he talked about that was really good, and I wanted to bring this up, and I'm glad that there's still time to bring it up because it's important. Mm-hmm. He talked about how the Dynamo have taken an initiative this season in particular to set aside time before and after matches for news organizations here locally to get footage of players, to get interviews with players and coaches, etc. And why is that important? Because it helps local media connect with the players and with the coaching staff, with the team. One of the things that's been talked about is, well, we need local media to cover the Dynamo more and more in the Dash too, but the Dynamo more and more because they're not covering it. When in reality, and we talked about this a while back, Edson, I don't know if you remember this, but we talked about how the Dynamo were so, like, the way that the Dynamo approached how they handled media under, and I'm going to say it, under the Chris Kennedy regime, it was almost off-putting to media. Media didn't want to come to practices because they weren't getting anything of value out of it. Mm-hmm. The quotes they were getting were the same quotes week after week. So why would you go out to a practice, every day of the week, when in reality you can go one day and it's the same quote you're going to get for the rest of the week anyways.
Rehashed content.
Yeah. And so, Cisco, I forwarded it to you, I'm pretty sure. And actually I posted it in Discord. So if you didn't get it, not my fault, bruh. But it's important, and the fact that John Walker addressed it and talked about it means that it's important to the team. John Walker has said that one of his things was that he took time to listen and took time to find out and research where are the areas that they absolutely must improve. What are the priority areas to improve? And, he made it very clear that they've made attempts and efforts at improving those. And I think it shows. I think the fact that we now actually had an article about a Dynamo player come out this week, we've seen more and more media members out at the practices. He's noted that, and so on and so forth. it shows that the things that they're doing are making an impact. Again, it's not going to be an overnight impact. It's going to take, I think, more than just one season. I think it's going to take a couple of seasons to really start to show. But I think they're forging the way forward to help this get back to what it was in the Robertson days and then go beyond that in a good way. And so, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I am absolutely, totally 100% satisfied with the work that John Walker's doing. And Deanna Witter, for that matter. I think she's doing a fantastic job. And I look forward to the next 6 months of their tenures, because if this first 6 months is any indication, this next 6 months is going to be a hell of a fun ride. I know I'm enjoying the Dynamo experience more and more with every match. Am I exhausted? Yes. Is it going to keep me away? Absolutely not. But I'm enjoying it more and more because I see the effort they're putting in. It makes me want to put in the same amount of effort to not only go to matches, but to be involved in matches.
Yeah, Cisco. There's been a lot more media covering the games, not only national or local or local when it comes to like independents, but I've also seen like BN Sports and FA, which is really, really big in Europe.
Yep.
They've been there week in and week out at the home matches, who I honestly had not seen before. So I think that is an indication to me that they're seeing that this team is a lot more open to receiving not only the typical questions during press conferences, but I feel like Coach Cabrera, I was about to say Coach Echeverry. Big shout out to Coach Echeverry. Coach Cabrera being a lot more open to asking questions about his tactics, about his substitutions and things like that. Now, like, instead of trying to kind of run around it, there's been a little bit of improvement. There's still room for more improvement from the transparency of Coach Cabrera when it comes to like injuries and stuff like that. But I do think that they are a little bit more open to talk about and answer questions from the media that isn't your typical, oh, how do you feel after this match?
Yeah. It's been consistent this season, I think, so far. We've seen a steady increase. And you are, Cisco, and that's the thing, right? I can attest to that you and I would talk about things throughout the entire week when stuff would happen and stuff like this. Like I'd keep you up to date when I found stuff out. I haven't been able to do that this year, neither of you. There's a lot you need to be caught up on. Text me after this show's over, Cisco. We need to grab a beer or something. But we've seen the steady improvement this season, and it started in the off season, and we talked about midway through and towards the end of last season that, with as good as the team was beginning to play toward, at different parts of the season last year, as good as our players were, as good as the coaching has been, which at that point was pretty decent. There were still times were frustrated, but overall it was much, much improved. As much as the game day, general day-to-day experience had improved, the one area that was still a struggle was the fact that we were having some of the same problems, week over week and, and year over year, and they were never improving and never getting better. A lot of it was marketing based. A lot of it was, fan experience based and those kinds of things. And all those things come from the top, and, they're culture based, and they're things that, that they start from the top. They're not orders necessarily, but they're directives given from the top. And, so yeah, as much as I enjoyed Chris Canetti on a personal level, I'm damn glad he's no longer president of the organization. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, just making sure. Look, I like I said, I like him on a personal level, but as president of the organization, it was time. It was probably time 2 to 3 years before that, to be honest with you. But them getting John Walker was a revelation for the organization, both the Dynamo and the Dash. He has absolutely changed the fate of this organization. And if the team can continue to win, I can almost assure you 100% that next season we're going to see much more butts in seats, match over match, or season over season than we do this season. Some of the other things that they're doing that came up in the conference call that I think is really good is they're talking about and looking at changes to pricing for next season to actually give preferred pricing, essentially cheaper pricing, for those fans that opt to sit in the sections or have season tickets in sections where the sun directly shines on them during day games. To basically say, you know, hey, we're willing to give you cheaper tickets if you're willing to, you know, deal with the sun, instead of having those sections be the same price on both the east and the west side. I think that's huge, because that there's a reason those seats are always pretty well empty, is because no one wants to sit there when it's the same price as.
And the worst part is that that's TV side.
Exactly. And you know, and that was brought up, you know, how do you improve the TV, you know, the view of the TV, you know, for attendance. And, you know, he said preferred pricing, we're looking into it as a possibility, and among other things. And, you know, they're going to have promos and stuff like that, and they're working on different things. And, you know, I at the end of the day, I say that way too much. If I have anything that I want to say to Dynamo and Dash fans, it's, if you're on the fence still, if you're not sold yet, give them the rest of this season, and I think you will be sold. They've made a lot of changes, and they're going to make a whole lot more before this season is done. A lot of stuff you don't necessarily see week over week, but I promise you they're making changes. Like the media thing is a huge deal too. So.
And they're gonna like anything, they're gonna have their hits, they're gonna have their misses. But at the end of the day, I think so far there's been a lot more positives than negatives out of John Walker and Deanna Witter. So call us whatever you want, but we're just seeing it like we're seeing it. And the fact is, these changes have been positive, but it's not going to be an overnight, we're going to have a sellout or consistent sellouts right away. Yeah. No. It all goes down with the human nature of being reluctant to trust or pretty much like receptive of these changes. I know there's a lot of people that have criticized this change with BBVA Compass now being a smoke-free environment. You know, so with any change, there's going to be people that are going to like it, and there's going to be people that are hate it. Same thing with 713 pricing. I know there was a lot of naysayers about especially season ticket holders that were reluctant to accept the 713 promotions.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, it's just I'd rather have that an indication that they want to change things for the better than for them just being mediocre and just accepting that that's the way things are. Because at the end of the day, that's what we wanted. We wanted change. We're getting change.
Yeah. And look, along the same lines, the change isn't just front office based. The change is supporters groups based. We've seen changes within the supporters groups and in different areas and different things that they're doing. El Batallón, Los de Siempre. Hey, I got it right. Give me credit. Thank you. They've introduced new songs. You know, they're trying new things. You know, and Texan Army are trying new things as well. John Walker talked about that as well on the call, that you know, in talking with these different these other MLS clubs that have had success when it comes to their supporters groups, one of the things that they've learned, especially from Portland and LAFC specifically, is that they're inclusive in that they don't set aside the section just for officially organized supporters groups. They open it up to anybody who, you know, any supporters group that wants to be part of the match and wants to be in the supporters section, you know, official or otherwise. And I think that's awesome. And, you know, he said that's something they want to do. And, you know, it just goes to show we've talked.
I think there's going to be a problem with EB with that. I know Texas is not.
Hey, it don't matter what EB wants or does. It doesn't matter. John Walker will kick their asses out.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Oh, I know. No. But EB.
Yeah, what I was going to say that, but they're going to have to adapt to it and move on and
absolutely
and quit being you know, we keep on saying about the Dynamo. I think it's the same thing with the supporters groups, is that they're going to have to adapt to new things if they want to grow. When you want to be inclusive, this isn't. You can't be. The culture in North America is a hell of a lot different than the culture in South America, and I have a feeling there's a lot of people within that are reluctant to to understand that. And we go back to that certain subject that we've talked about many times on this show that has had the mentality of, oh, I'm in the supporters group. I travel to away games. I'm a better fan than everybody else. That's not inclusivity. That's not going to help you grow as a supporters group. That's only going to lead to a me versus everybody else mentality. And that is very toxic for what's supposed to be an environment of an inclusivity and growth. And I think people need to understand that. It doesn't matter it doesn't really matter what you do, whether everybody has their own way of supporting. And there's not one right way to be a supporter. You can be very critical of this team and still be a supporter because you at least take the time to have an opinion, right or wrong. What we think is right or wrong, that goes out of the question. But at least you care enough about this team to have an opinion about it. If you didn't really care about this team, you would, whatever. No. And whether you go to away trips, I have to give kudos. Having said that, I have to give kudos to everybody who goes to away trips, like Webb, like Cisco, and all of the EB stuff. It's a huge sacrifice to do, and I applaud you for that. But my biggest problem is when you have people like Miguel Sada saying, "Oh, I do this. I'm a bigger fan than everybody else." It's not about who's a bigger fan. It's about getting everybody else to be as big of a fan as you.
You know, we've talked about it before too, that being a supporter doesn't mean necessarily being in the supporter section or being part of a supporters group. Being a supporter is supporting the team at the end of the day, period. Anything beyond that is engaging with the team. It's part of supporters culture. It's part of becoming an ingrained supporter, but you don't have to be, part of a supporters group or go to away matches to be a supporter. You don't even have to go to home matches to be a supporter of the team. Alex is a great example. I mean, he does what he can to spread and build the fan base, even though he can't attend most home matches. I applaud that. And I think that is the heart of a true supporter. At the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about growing the fan base. It's about finding more people to connect with in terms of the club and the team, and improving that. And so, hey, Cal made it. That's because we are making it 3. Probably not a full 3, just so you guys know. I'm not going till 10. But okay, I want to talk about something real quick. I've been debating whether I wanted to talk about this, but I think I have to bring this up.
Do it.
Do you even know what I'm going to talk about, Edson?
No, but I'm just saying, do it.
All right, stop begging me on.
Seems legit.
So it wasn't that long ago. Actually, it's probably a while back. There are some people out there who.
Welcome, Ben Boyd, to the Down in the Valley YouTube channel. He has
subscribed. Ben, that's awesome.
And so has Eric Romero.
Hey, Eric. Yo, that's because he got free tickets. He's like, all right, I'll subscribe now. I got free tickets. I see how it is, Eric. So not long ago, I happened across, technically Edson happened across, a conversation on a website that shall remain nameless, talking about our podcast. Edson now knows what I'm going to talk about.
Yes.
And I'm going to make it real short and sweet. If you're going to disparage our podcast for us talking about the Dynamo and our opinions about the Dynamo, go to fucking hell. You don't do anything to spread the Dynamo. You sit on your happy ass on your keyboard and you are happy to disparage and be negative about the Dynamo. I don't care. You are doing nothing to improve the Dynamo. All you're doing is building up your fucking ego. Get over it and grow up. That's all I got to say, Edson.
Wow, that went south real quick, and I mean, I understand, like I said a while back, that opinions are opinions, even though we think they're wrong. But in the end, they're taking the time to make opinions about the team. But when you're so determined to find every little fault and hammer it down on not only the team, but of other people that are taking time out of their lives, out of their busy lives, to try to bring coverage to this team, whether it's independent media, podcasts, journalism, whatever. And all you do is bash without giving any suggestions on how to make it better, or at least show your goddamn face to us, and just start bashing from the inside of your troll cave, then you ain't got, and forgive me for using this word, but you don't have the goddamn guts to show yourself. You are a freaking coward. And if you're a coward, personally, I don't give a rat's ass about your opinion.
Yeah. Look, we know that there are going to be people that have negative opinions about what we do in our show, and you have a right to those negative opinions. I really don't mind you talking about your negative opinions. Look, I'm not always right, and I know it, and that's totally fine with me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm me, and that's thank you, Darby. I told you the site was going to remain nameless. I'm not gonna post it anywhere. It's between me, Edson, and whoever else happens to know about it. But it was uncalled for, and where they went with it is what pissed me off. It was a reflection upon Cisco. I'll tell you offline. It was a reflection upon, and is a direct result about us talking about the Ponce cannon, and they used Leo's legacy to disparage our show. And that is a no-go for me. And all of you who watch this show know exactly why that's a no-go for me. That got to me real bad in a bad way. And it got to Edson too. And I talked Edson down off the tree because he was ready to break a limb and use it for something really bad against them. But it's okay to have a negative opinion about this show. You can absolutely have a negative opinion about the show, but to do it in that way, to use the legacy of someone who started this, essentially, that's dirty. That's low. That's not just uncalled for. That's not just cowardly. That's a full-on bitch move. And to do it in a place where they thought it was private and secret and nobody would find out, integrity is what happens behind closed doors, not in front of it. Zero integrity, y'all. Zero integrity. So look, we've talked about it. We've vented. We voiced our opinions about it. I will post it in the Dynamo Discord or have Edson post it there for those who want to check it out. But honestly, don't go pitchforking them because if they're going to find out about this, let them find out about it on their own, because it's only going to further my point that I've said all along, which is even negative publicity in this case can be very positive. The fact that they were talking about the show meant that they were watching the show, even if they don't agree with our opinions. So guess what? It means what we're doing is working. Oh, yeah, no, I know, Jake. That's why I don't want you to find out. Jake will kill somebody. And Jake knows how to do it. He's a former EMT. But seriously, guys, we appreciate your support. And things like this, I mean, things like this piss me off. But I know at the end of the day, the reason we do it is not for guys like that. It's not to make friends with guys like that. Mm-hmm. It's not to build our community with guys like that. it's to grow this family that you guys have helped create and you guys are part of. And look, that extends to Eric. Eric, you're part of that family now, man. Sam, you're part of the family. I mean, Ben and Amy, y'all are part of the family. I mean, the rest of you guys who are in here, Darby, Jake, Callo, Santos, Cisco, Kenny, I'm sure Sergio and Jeff are in here somewhere too, and who knows who else, Edson's father. It's you guys make that kind of bullshit worth dealing with, because you guys keep us going. Trust me, Edson and I get exhausted from doing this. It takes a lot out of us to do it week over week. And even though we haven't done it the last 2 weeks because we've just had personal obligations where we couldn't, we wanted to do it because we enjoy engaging and talking with you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, you do, Darby. Yes, you do. I could send it to you via text message, Darby. I got your. Oh, I don't have your phone number.
And I know one of the points and what got me so riled up, and Sean knows about this, and I might as well just say it, is that one of the comments that they made kind of made it seem like I was not worthy of filling Leo Ponce's shoes.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm not Leo Ponce. I'll never be Leo.
Yeah.
He was in another level, and I know I'll never be like him. I have my own style. I bring in my own twist to Dynamo, RGV, and Dash talk, coverage, whatever you want to call it. I'll never be like him. So for those who tuned into the original Gen Orange, that's all I have to say. I'll never be him. I'm not trying to be him. I'm putting it I'm doing this out of the good because I love this team, just like Leo loved this team. So I stop putting me or stop comparing me to him or making it seem like there's a rivalry or like I'm whatever. It's not about that. This new variation of this, if you want to call it a reboot, call it a reboot. But this new iteration of Gen Orange is specifically created to the type of fans we have now. And it's very unfair to Leo to try to compare it with each other. And if you truly loved or truly appreciated Leo, you'd understand where I'm coming from. So please respect Leo's legacy. That's all I ask. Respect Leo's legacy and don't use him to bash Sean, to bash me, or to bash Gen Orange in general. Like Sean said, it's a bitch move.
Yeah. I think we'll end here in about 15 minutes. But to end this segment, this is all I got for you. Get off my back, bitch. All right, we're moving on now. So what else do we need to talk about? It's Champions League. We said we were going to talk Champions League. Yes. We never got to it. So Champions League. Yeah, I'm beaming because Tottenham play on Saturday.
What's up, Harry?
For the greatest of trophies, the UEFA Champions League trophy against Liverpool FC. I'm beaming. I'm absolutely excited that they won the match against Ajax in the fashion they won it. Holy crap, Lucas Moura, where did that come from? Hat trick, and to do it at that moment, at that time, just unbelievable. I mean, it was, watching that match was incredible. But then doubling up on it and realizing that Tottenham have made it to the final, it's going to be a fun match. It is absolutely going to be a fun match against Liverpool. And, I've got friends that are Liverpool fans. And, I've already texted them to say, hey, no love lost no matter what happens with the match. But you better as hell believe that for at least that 90 minutes, I am 100% a Tottenham supporter for that 90 minutes at the very least. And hey, credit to Callo. I'm going to take 1 second away from Champions League real quick. Congratulations to Aston Villa for securing the promotion to the Premier League. That's huge. And, you know, it wasn't an easy match for them, but they did it. They earned it. I know Callow and who else was talking about it in the chat? I don't even remember. You know, there were 2 or 3 of the Dynamo Discord guys that were watching that match and were Aston Villa supporters. And kudos to you guys. Amazing. I look forward to watching you guys in Premier League next year. Yes, I didn't stutter for a reason. I said exactly what I said. Look, I'm excited for the opportunity to see Tottenham go against Jurgen Klopp's team one more time this season.
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool right now are easily one of the best teams in the world, and Tottenham are showing they belong with the best teams in the world. And if Tottenham can pull this one off, it's going to be incredible. It's going to be amazing. I am going to be insufferable for at least a week, if at maybe 3 weeks, because we have 2 weeks after. No, wait, we got one more match on the 8th, I think. And we go 8th to the 22nd. So there will be one more Dynamo match. But I will be insufferable for probably the entire Gold Cup span, because we're going to have not a lot else to talk about. So actually, okay, I'm going to throw this out there. I would not be opposed to a playoff in that manner, Harry. I really wouldn't be. I would love to see it. However, that's probably 10 to 15 years down the road, because of financial capability for the individual teams, because of viability for travel for the individual teams. We've talked about Pro Rel on here, and I think maybe during Gold Cup we'll actually take Pro Rel. Oh, we have time. I said make it 3. We can go 3. I got 30 minutes. But I think we'll use Gold Cup during that downtime to talk Pro Rel, just to give you guys something to talk about and have a group discussion. I'd like it if I could get 2 or 3 of you to commit. Harry, you'd be one of them. I'd love to get commit. Cisco, you're one of the other ones, and I don't know who else I'd have to think, but maybe Santos would be another good one. Get you guys to call in, and we all go into a Discord voice chat together and do like a roundtable discussion about only 30 minutes to get over my love of the Spurs. Only 30 minutes? Boy, you were wrong.
Huge shout out to Jake. Thank you for the $15.
Yeah, absolutely, Jake. Thank you for that. But I would love to have a Pro Rel roundtable with some of you guys from our chat for sure. And maybe we'll have a Discord channel to do it in with a voice chat. We can all jump in and just talk and have fun. But we'll discuss it. I'm totally cool with discussing it. And there's something in the Dynamo Discord. I think you should probably share that with Harry at some point, Edson, since he's not in the Dynamo Discord.
I think he is. No, he is.
Okay, good. Well, he would find that interesting. If you haven't seen it yet, Harry, you need to go look at it. It's interesting. Harry, we will let you know. I'm totally serious. I want to do a roundtable, and I think Discord makes the most sense because it's an easy voice chat methodology or voice chat system we can use for it. But yeah, I am totally all about talking Pro Rel, just because I can't see it happening in 10 to 15 years, or for 10 to 15 years. Yeah, everybody has their opinion, right? In person is going to be very difficult because we'd have to have a location to do it at, and it would need to be a location that was quiet enough to be able to handle our equipment, because we do have the equipment to do it. Well, we've got the equipment to do a couple of mics, not the full setup of mics. But I am actually working on having an in-person, a live
roundtable.
Live roundtable at some point about academy stuff, more or less, and a couple other things related to that. But that, I think, is probably going to end up being held off until off-season discussion time.
And I would love to have a roundtable to talk about the RGV relationship. And I know I talked about it before.
Well, that would be part of that same roundtable.
Have Glenn Davis on.
See, the hard part about that is you have to get Glenn at a time that he's available to do it. And I don't know if his contract with the Dynamo would allow him to do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But, hey, guys, at this point, I think we're probably safe unless you guys have any other topics you want to talk about. Probably
you didn't
safe
talk
for us to call it
about
up.
Champions League. All you said that you were going to be beaming.
That's all I need to say. I don't want to spend 30 minutes gloating over my Spurs being in the final, and Man City about to get banned from UEFA Champions League.
Walk on, walk on.
All right, Shut up, Edson. Shut up.
With hope. All right.
Oh, hey, did you see that Harry congratulated you for RGV's
I
beatdown
did
of
just see that right now, and I appreciate
Hey.
it. It's just something that you can't hide how bad. And I've got to say this, Harry, and you said it. It's so obvious that this team is just trying their best to get the San Antonio FC front office to fire Darren Powell. You just look at Lance Lang and his laziness. He's like never defended well and never made an intention to do so, as well as other players like cut inside man Billy Forbes, who we know is a good player, never showed it. But yeah, I mean that's all there is to it. Like Jacob said in the beginning of the show, I highly doubt the next time we meet we're gonna be going up against a Darren Powell SAFC.
I'm sorry, Callow gets the applause of the night. That was awesome.
Hold on. What?
He made a Discord channel. It's called ProRel is not viable and I can't read the rest of
In
it.
America, I think that's what it is.
That's too funny. Santos says, so rather have Spurs fans be so insufferable or hear Liverpool say 6 times. Yeah, I mean, it's look, I mean, better Spurs fans than Liverpool fans, right? At least at this point. And how many Spurs fans do you actually know that you'd have to deal with compared to Liverpool fans? And hey, I'm rooting for Chelsea in the Europa League final. I would love to see Chelsea beat Arsenal. Granted, I'm a Spurs fan, and there's obvious reasons for that. And I do think Chelsea's better than Arsenal this season, and I don't even think it's that close. But, yeah, I mean, Spurs, Champions League final. Look, I just had the Dynamo in the Open Cup final, and they won it for the first time ever. I think it's only fair that I get a following season with the Spurs winning the Champions League final. I mean, come on.
You're pushing your luck.
And then follow it up with the Dynamo winning MLS Cup.
Not gonna happen.
I mean, it's the 2 years I deserve for all the time and effort I've put in as a fan of both clubs, as a Houston sports fan, through all the suffering we've endured as Rockets and Texans fans and Astros fans. Although we did win at least the World Series recently.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are you clearing your throat there, Edson? Is that what that is?
I'm clearing my throat because I'm sick. No, I'm seriously.
No, I know. Just giving you shit. But it's just going to be fun to watch these two matches. The Europa League final is going to be amazing to watch, and the Champions League final is going to be amazing to watch. All 4 teams are deserving to be where they are. That's as much a slight to Chelsea and Arsenal as anything else. But hey, if there's one thing we can all agree on, and I think it's time to end the show on this note, at least Manchester United's not there.
Yes.
I feel bad for anybody who's a Manchester United fan because this is not the year for you guys. Ooh.
Well, they're going to have to do a massive cleanup because they've already gone through Mourinho, they've gone through Solskjaer, and it's been the same old.
Yep.
And same thing can be said about Real Madrid. Something needs to be done because even with Zinedine Zidane, the end of this season has been utter horseshit.
Harry says he wants a Liga MX review. No, that's fine. We'll tack on extra time. I've already approved of making it to like 9:45, so we're good.
All right. So basically, this weekend we had the Liga MX final. Tigres won. Tigres won their 7th championship in a very boring match. Why? Because Tigres played very defensively throughout the whole second leg of the final. And I know a lot of people, including myself, did not approve of that. But I guess in the ends justify the means. It may not be very entertaining to watch those kind of games, but the way Liga MX is set up, a lot of coaches ended up going that direction instead of going all out. Because, number one, front offices in Liga MX have very, very, very short leeways. If you don't put in results by the 6th week, you're out. So there's no time for coaches to test or experiment with formations, with players, you call it, because you're in danger of losing your job right away. That's why, especially some of the smaller teams, they tend to be very, very defensive, which pretty much hurts the entertainment value of Liga MX. And I know people like Sean, people like Callow can agree with that. And Tuca Ferretti has always been a coach where he'll just do whatever's necessary to get the result he wants. If it's parking the bus, he'll park the bus. And honestly, if it wasn't for if thanks to Nahuel Guzman and his 9 saves in both legs, that's why we won the championship. Because Nahuel Guzman, he was on fire throughout the whole playoffs, and thanks to him, we got our 7th star in the crest. But yeah, that's about it. When it comes to Liga MX, like I said, I'm just happy we won the championship. I just wasn't happy with how it was achieved. But then again, that's why I'm not the coach. But that's it. That's all there is to it.
All right, guys. Hey, it's been fun tonight. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure if you haven't yet, like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, share the stream. Remember, we are on here every
Predictions.
Tuesday, for Dynamo versus SKC.
Yes.
1-1 draw.
Bold prediction.
SKC gets a red card in the first half.
I'm going to go with 3-1. 3-1 Dynamo. Memo
That's
gets a brace.
That's not super bold, but okay. The 3-1 is more bold than the Memo brace at this point.
No, my bold prediction, SKC has to use a couple of Swope Park Rangers players.
Oh, that's not happening. I can see 1, but 2 is going a bit far.
But yeah, and UEFA Champions League, 2-1 Liverpool.
Get out. You're banned from this show forever.
Wait,
I'm just kidding.
Wait.
I'm just kidding.
What'd you say? What'd you say? Oh, right. They can't hear you now anymore. They can't even see you now, right? Because who's got control? Me? I do. All right. Nah, I'm just kidding, bro. There we go.
Forget, I still have access to YouTube chat.
Well, I can easily ban you, but I'm just kidding. All right, let's get the show ended.
Yep. So guys, remember, like I said, like the video, share the streams week over week. We are here on YouTube every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central, unless we have personal obligations for the week, which we can't control. So make sure you tune in when you can. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notifications when we go live. Tap on the notification, and you can pull it up on your phone and watch us on there.
That includes Down in the Valley.
That does include Down in the Valley as well, which is pretty awesome. Which airs every Wednesday night at 7 p.m.
So we'll have Mondays will be the FIFA 19 RGVFC career mode live streams. Tuesdays, Generation Orange at 7. And then Wednesdays, Down in the Valley at 7 p.m.
Yep. And then hope to see some of you guys out at the Dynamo match on Saturday. Congrats again to Eric for his tickets that he won. Eric, you need to hit me up on Twitter. Hit up the Gen Orange account on Twitter. Send us a DM on Twitter, and I'll get with you to get the information from you that I need to get those tickets to you.
Which should be it should be a hot day on Saturday.
Yeah, but it's a 7:30 kickoff or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, most of the heat will be starting to dissipate at that point. It's still going to be hot and humid. Don't get me wrong, but it'll be better than at least if it was a 5 o'clock match like the last home match that I was at. That was I still have peeling skin from the sunburn I got from that match.
Well, you know.
Yeah, and Harry says, oh, I do want to bring that up too. Congratulations, Edson, for getting your little local write up there in the Monitor, talking about your video gaming.
Thank you, Harry.
All right, guys. So remember, stay forever orange.
Hashtag Weird Toros.
Dash TF on.
Do our part.
We are Gen Orange.
And one family.
Boom.
So, thank you guys. We'll see each other tomorrow for Down in the Valley and next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for another episode of Generation Orange.
And remember, use hashtag ReadList and tweet out any articles you find covering Dynamo Dash, local Houston soccer, U.S. women's national team, U.S. men's national team, online or otherwise. Tweet those out using hashtag ReadList so that we can get as many people reading those articles to continue to help grow the coverage of the Dynamo and local media. All right, so have a good night.
All right, good night, guys.
Thank you for hanging in. We appreciate it.